Hey there! My name is Kira, and when I was 16, my parents left me at an airport as a lesson. No warning, no money, just a text message that read, "Let's see how long it takes you to get home." That was the day I realized I wasn't their child. I was their experiment. A game piece in their twisted version of parenting, where love was measured in control and cruelty was disguised as teaching me a lesson. But here's the thing about lessons. Some of them you never forget. For years, I thought they had lost me that day, that maybe after all this time, they regretted it, that maybe in some twisted way, they actually missed me. But when they found me 20 years later, I learned the truth. They never looked for me, never wanted me back. They used my disappearance for sympathy, for money, for power. And now, after decades of silence, they're knocking on my door, demanding something I swore I'd never give them again. So tell me, what would you do if the people who abandoned you once came back, expecting you to save them? Would you let them back in? Or would you finally walk away? Because this time, I'm not the lost girl at the airport. This time, I get to decide how the story ends. The past never truly disappears. It lingers, stretching like a long, dark shadow over the life you've built. You tell yourself you've moved on, that it no longer has a hold on you. But then, a message appears on your screen, and suddenly, you're 16 again, standing in an airport with a dead phone and the sinking realization that no one is coming back for you. 39 missed calls. At first, I ignored it. I was in a meeting, discussing logistics for a multi-million-dollar project in downtown Houston. My life was structured, controlled, built brick by brick with my own two hands. There was no space for chaos, no room for the past. But the screen kept lighting up, buzzing like a wasp trapped in a jar. Unknown number. "Kira, please pick up. They found you." I had no choice but to give them your number. "I'm sorry, Vesper." My breath caught. My hands pressed against the cool conference table to steady myself. They found me. I didn't need her to say who they were. Marlo and Orrin Monroe, the people who used to be my parents. 16 years ago, Houston International Airport, that July day, was suffocatingly hot. We had just returned from a family trip to Florida. Not that it felt like one. I had spent most of it tiptoeing around my parents' unpredictable moods. One moment, everything was fine. The next, I was walking out of the restroom, wiping my hands on my jeans, only to find the seats where they had been waiting empty. At first, I wasn't worried. Maybe they had moved closer to the gate. I walked, checked, walked some more. Then my phone buzzed. "Mom, let's see how long it takes you to get home. A lesson in independence. Don't call us." My hands went numb. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it might crack my ribs. I tried calling anyway, straight to voicemail, over and over again. I waited. An hour? 2. Security started eyeing me. A woman approached, asking if I was lost. "No," I said, my voice hollow, "just waiting for someone." But no one came. By nightfall, I was that kid, sitting on a bench, trying not to cry. I had $40 in my wallet. My bank account was frozen. I had nothing. Security eventually told me I couldn't stay overnight. That's when it hit me. They weren't coming back. They had left me there, on purpose. And I was completely, utterly alone. Present day, I snapped back, gripping my phone like it might dissolve in my hands. I was not that girl anymore. I had fought for everything I had. And now they thought they could just find me? After 20 years? A new message popped up. "Vesper. Mom's crying. Dad's furious. They need to talk to you, not want, not miss you, need." Of course, they did. Orrin Monroe never did anything unless it benefited him. Marlo cried on command if it got her sympathy. The only reason they were reaching out now was because they wanted something. And Vesper, I had always believed she might be different, that maybe, just maybe, she had the potential to be something more. But now, giving them my number? She had chosen her side. I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the polished floor. The room, full of developers, contractors, my project manager, fell silent. Everything okay, Kira? I forced a tight smile. Just an old ghost trying to knock on my door. Before anyone could question me, I walked out. I had spent 20 years pretending those people didn't exist. I wasn't about to let them change that now. I blocked the number. Then, without hesitation, I turned off my phone. But somehow, I knew. This wasn't over. Some ghosts refused to stay buried. I thought blocking the number would be enough. That ignoring them, pretending they didn't exist, would keep them out of my life. But people like Oren and Marlo Monroe never let go when there's something left to take. And apparently, neither did Vesper. A knock at my door pulled me from my thoughts. It was late. Too late for a neighbor. Too late for a package. My body tensed as I walked toward the door, my bare feet silent on the cool hardwood floor. Downtown Houston's city lights flickered against the windows, casting long shadows across my apartment. I hesitated before looking through the peephole. Vesper. Of course. She looked thinner, her long brown hair pulled into a messy bun. Her arms were wrapped tightly around herself, shifting from foot to foot. She looked desperate. I considered pretending I wasn't home. But I knew Vesper. If she had come all the way here, she wouldn't leave without saying whatever she came to say. I exhaled through my nose and opened the door. Relief flashed across her face. Kira. No. My fingers tightened around the edge of the door. Her mouth snapped shut. Please, she whispered. Just hear me out. I should have slammed the door. Instead, against all common sense, I stepped aside. The second she was inside, I regretted it. She glanced around my apartment, minimalist, clean, controlled, and let out a hollow laugh. You really did it, huh? I folded my arms. What do you want, Vesper? She hesitated, searching for the right words, the ones that would make me care. They're in trouble, she finally said. I scoffed. They're always in trouble. No, Kira, this is different. It's bad. I raised an eyebrow. Enlighten me. She licked her lips, hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. You're stalling, I said flatly. She exhaled. Dad took out loans, a lot of them. But they weren't real, Kira. He faked assets, moved money through shell companies. It's fraud. They're being investigated. I leaned against the counter, unimpressed. Sounds like a them problem. They could go to prison, she said, voice breaking. Sounds about right. Her shoulders sagged. They need help. I laughed, sharp, cold. They need me? I shook my head. Unbelievable. They're desperate, she whispered. I rolled my eyes. They don't get to be desperate now, not with me. Vesper took a step closer. Kira, no. My voice was steel. You don't get to show up here and expect me to save them. They're still our parents. Something snapped inside me. No, I said, dangerously quiet. They stopped being our parents the moment they left me standing in that terminal. Tears filled her eyes. You don't understand? I stepped forward, inches from her face. Oh, I understand perfectly. They abandoned me, let me believe I wasn't good enough to love. And now, when they finally remember I exist, it's because they need something. She shook her head. It's not like that. It's exactly like that, I snapped. Her breath hitched. I tried to protect you. I laughed, bitter. By letting me think they were just bad parents instead of criminals? I thought if you never knew, you wouldn't get involved. I shook my head, disgusted. And yet, here you are, dragging me back in. She opened her mouth, but I was done. I walked to the door and pulled it open. Get out. Kira, I mean it. She hesitated, searching my face for something, anything, that would make me change my mind. But there was nothing left for her to find. She exhaled, nodded once, and stepped past me into the hallway. Paused. They're still family, Kira. I met her gaze, voice cold. Not anymore. I shut the door, locked it. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty about it. I pressed my hands to the counter, steadying myself. Vesper was gone. They were gone. I had cut the cord. But then my phone buzzed. Another message. Unknown number. Ignoring us won't change the past. We're coming. A chill ran down my spine. They weren't done. Not even close. Some wounds never truly heal. They linger beneath the surface, festering, waiting for the right moment to be torn open again. As I stared at the unknown number flashing on my phone screen, I felt the first crack in the foundation of the life I had built. I shouldn't have answered. I should have ignored it, tossed my phone aside, and moved on. But I didn't. I slid my finger across the screen. Silence. Then a voice I hadn't heard in 20 years. Ignoring us won't change the past, Kira. My stomach clenched. I would recognize that voice anywhere. Orrin Monroe. I hung up without a word, my hands trembling around the phone. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. I wasn't 16 anymore. I wasn't stranded in an airport, waiting for them to change their minds and come back for me. I was a grown woman, successful, independent. They had no power over me. At least, that's what I told myself. I paced my apartment, trying to shake the feeling that something rotten had slithered its way back into my life. I needed a distraction. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and started sorting through emails. Work updates, contracts, the usual noise. Then something caught my eye. Subject: account closure confirmation. My chest tightened. It was from an old bank I hadn't used in years. I clicked the email, a formal notice confirming that a trust account in my name had been closed. 20 years ago. That didn't make sense. My parents had set up that account when I was a child, for college, for my future. But after they abandoned me, I never thought about it again. I opened the attached statement. My breath caught. The account had been emptied before I even turned 18. 20 minutes later, I was on the phone with the bank. Most of the representatives were useless, hiding behind outdated policies. But then, finally, someone slipped. Your parents were the account holders until its closure. My grip on the phone tightened. They took my money. Before they abandoned me, before they left me in that airport, they had already stripped me of everything. I swallowed back the lump in my throat. This wasn't just neglect. This was deliberate. And I wasn't done looking for answers. There was only one person who might have left something for me: Annika Monroe. She was the only adult in my family who had ever looked at me like I mattered. Before she passed, she had mentioned setting up a separate fund for me, a safety net in case I ever needed it. I searched for the lawyer who had handled her estate, found a number, dialed it. Jameson and Associates, how can I help you? I'm looking for information on a fund left by Annika Monroe. I kept my voice steady. I believe it was created before her passing. A brief hold, then a new voice. Yes, I remember the case, the lawyer said. Then a pause. But I'm afraid that account was drained before the will was finalized. My stomach dropped. Drained? Yes. Before the estate could be distributed, the funds were already withdrawn. I felt cold all over. Who had access to it? Another pause. Then the answer. Only two people, Orrin Monroe and Vesper. I ended the call and sat back, my heart pounding. Vesper. The same sister who had stood in my apartment hours ago, looking at me with wide, guilt-ridden eyes. She had known. She had known what they did. And she had participated. I had spent years believing that maybe, just maybe, Vesper had been different. That she had been a victim too, caught in their web of manipulation. But now I wasn't sure if she had ever been on my side at all. The past wasn't just full of betrayals. It was full of buried secrets. And this time, I wouldn't let them stay hidden. Sitting in the sterile conference room of Jameson and Associates, I drummed my fingers against the polished table. The air conditioning hummed softly, a stark contrast to the storm inside my chest. Across from me, David Calloway, a gray-haired lawyer, shifted uncomfortably. He hadn't expected me here. Neither had I. But after uncovering the truth about my stolen trust fund and Annika's missing money, I needed answers. Ms. Monroe? Calloway said, his hands clasped. You're looking for old legal records concerning your father? I nodded. Anything sealed, buried. I want to know everything. His expression tightened. Some records are protected, even from family. I leaned forward. I don't care how protected they are. If they exist, I want them. Calloway hesitated. I can't. Don't lie to me, I cut in coldly. I know my mother paid good money to make things disappear. I just want to know why. His throat bobbed. Then he slid a folder toward me. I scanned the page. Defendant, Orrin Monroe, charged domestic assault, sealed record. Date, April 2nd, 1998. Case status, expunged upon testimony from Marlo Monroe. My stomach dropped. I clenched my jaw and read further. Second, arrest. July 14th, 2001. Victim, Vesper Monroe Vesper. The same sister who had stood in my apartment, asking me to help him. Your mother paid to have both records sealed, Calloway said. She claimed the first was a misunderstanding, the second, an accident. I forced myself to breathe. And the charges? Expunged, he said, as if they never happened. A sharp, bitter laugh escaped me. I had believed my mother was trapped with Orrin, that she was a victim too. I was wrong. She wasn't weak. She was his shield. I left the law office on autopilot, my legs carrying me through the city. Before I could think, I pulled out my phone and dialed. Vesper picked up on the third ring. Kira? Her voice was hesitant. You knew, I said, calm and deadly. A pause. Knew what? Don't play stupid. You knew he hurt you. You knew he hurt others. And you let Mom cover it up. Silence. Tell me I'm wrong, I challenged. She didn't. I was scared, she whispered. Scared? My voice rose. You let me believe Mom was one of us, that she was another victim. She wasn't Vesper. She was his damn accomplice. She sucked in a breath. You thought ignoring it would make it go away? I cut her off. That pretending would stop him? A shaky breath. I didn't want to break the family apart. The family was already broken, I spat. You just helped them keep up appearances. More silence. When I was 16, alone in that airport, what were you doing? Crying in your room? Or sitting at the dinner table with them, pretending I never existed? A sob broke through the line. I felt nothing. You're just like her, I said coldly. You let it happen. I'm sorry, she whispered. I exhaled, shaking my head. No, you're not. Then I ended the call. I drove home in silence, my grip white-knuckled on the wheel. This was never just about money. Orrin wasn't just a narcissist. He was a violent monster. And Marlo? She made sure his sins were wiped clean. And Vesper? She was too much of a coward to stop them. I pulled into my apartment garage and turned off the engine, staring blankly ahead. There was no fixing this, no closure. There was only one thing left to do. Expose them. They spent their lives burying the truth. Now I was going to dig it up. I thought I had uncovered the worst of it, that there was nothing left to take from me. But the past had one final betrayal to unveil, one that could have changed everything. Late in the evening, my phone rang, breaking the heavy silence of my apartment. The fading sunlight painted long shadows across the walls. I didn't recognize the number, but something in my gut told me to answer. Ms. Monroe? A deep, unfamiliar voice. Yes? This is Richard Connors. I was Annika Monroe's attorney, my breath caught. Annika, the only person in my family who had ever loved me. I'm sorry for calling you out of the blue, he continued, but I found something in my files. A letter Annika wrote for you before she passed. It was meant to be delivered, but someone claimed it on your behalf. My pulse pounded. Who? A pause. Your sister, Vesper. I drove to the law office like a woman possessed. For 20 years, I had believed Annika had died without leaving me anything, that she hadn't been able to help me, and for 20 years, Vesper had let me believe that lie. The receptionist handed me a yellowed envelope. My fingers traced the delicate script. Annika's handwriting. Back in my car, I sat frozen, staring at my name. Then, with shaking hands, I opened the letter. Kira, if you're reading this, I hope you've escaped them. But if you haven't, you need to know the truth. Your parents will never change. Your mother will always choose your father. And your father, he will always find new ways to hurt those around him. I fought for you. I tried to secure a future for you beyond them, but I don't know if it was enough. They will come for you again. When they do not trust them. Do not trust Vesper. My breath hitched. I kept reading. She loves you, but she's afraid, and because of that, she will always choose them. She will protect their secrets, even if it means betraying you. If you have to run, run. If you have to fight, fight. But whatever you do, don't let them pull you back in. You are not theirs to control. You never were. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. The rage was too consuming. Annika had known. She had tried to warn me, and Vesper had stolen that warning from me. I dialed her number. She answered on the second ring. Kira? Her voice was hesitant. No greetings, no pleasantries. Just the only question that mattered. How long have you known? A pause. Too long. About what? She whispered. Don't, I snapped. Did you know about the letter? A shaky exhale. Kira, Answer the question. Silence. Then, finally. I thought if you never saw it, you wouldn't leave for good. My vision blurred with fury. You had no right, I seethed. I was trying to keep our family together, she pleaded. There was no family, Vesper, I hissed. You let me believe I had no one. You let me think Annika abandoned me. And for what? To keep a lie alive? I thought you'd come back, she whispered, voice breaking. I never would have. My voice was steel. Not if I had known the truth. And you let them take everything from me. I didn't know what else to do, she sobbed. Once I would have cared. Once I would have comforted her. But not anymore. There is no family left, I said coldly. And then I hung up. Alone in my apartment, I stared at the letter. For years I had run from my past. Now I was turning back, to burn it down. This time, I wasn't leaving any survivors. There were lines I never thought I'd have to draw. But when my parents set their sights on Elliot, all bets were off. The call came while I was at work, deep in a security meeting. Ms. Monroe, the receptionist's voice crackled through the intercom. The principal from Elliot's school is on the line. She says it's urgent. Dread curled in my stomach as I grabbed the phone. Ms. Monroe, Mrs. Holloway's voice was careful. Your parents came by today to visit Elliot. My blood turned to ice. They said they were here to pick him up, she continued. Elliot seemed confused, so we didn't release him, but... I was already grabbing my keys. What did they say to him? A hesitation. They claimed they had permission, that they were helping with a lesson. A cold rage settled in my chest. Let's see how long it takes her to get home. My father's voice echoed in my head. I bolted out the door. I broke every traffic law racing to the school. When I arrived, my parents were there, looming over Elliot, 10 years old, too trusting. Oren smiled like a teacher, while Marlo crouched beside him, her hand on his shoulder. I barely put my car in park before I was out. Elliot! His head snapped up. Mom! Marlo stood, feigning concern. Oh, Kira, we were just catching up. I ignored her, crouching in front of Elliot. Are you okay? He nodded, but his confusion lingered. They said you wouldn't mind. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. I turned to Oren. You do not talk to him. You do not go near him. You do not even breathe in his direction. Oren chuckled. Still dramatic, I see. I stepped between them and my son. This is not up for discussion. Marlo sighed. Kira, he deserves to know his family. You, I said, my voice steel, are not his family. Oren tilted his head, smirking. And what are you going to do about it? I stepped closer. If you ever come near my son again, I will make you regret it." His smirk faltered. "Careful, sweetheart. You sound just like your mother." My fists clenched. "That's the last mistake you'll ever make," I whispered. I turned to Mrs. Holloway. "Call security. They are never allowed here again." She nodded, already dialing. Oren's face darkened. Marlowe's expression twisted, but she didn't argue. As they walked away, Oren glanced back. "This isn't over, Kira." I exhaled, turning to Elliot. "Come on, baby, let's go home." He hesitated. "Mom, what did they mean by a lesson?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. "It doesn't matter. They won't be around to teach you anything." He nodded, still confused, but trusting me. As I pulled away from the school, reality settled in. I had spent years running, hoping they'd disappear. I was wrong. They came for my son. And for that, I would destroy them. I thought I knew every dark secret buried in my family's past. I was wrong. I hadn't slept. The last 24 hours had unraveled everything I believed to be true. My parents had crossed a line when they tried to take Elliot. They had proven, beyond a doubt, that they would never stop. For years, I had tried to outrun them, sever the ties binding me to them. But this wasn't just about me anymore. If I wanted them gone for good, I needed leverage. I needed proof. That was how I ended up in a dimly lit office in downtown Houston, sitting across from the private investigator I had hired less than 12 hours ago. Daniel Mercer, sharp, calculated, unreadable. He had taken my case without hesitation, promising results in 48 hours. But now, as he sat across from me, I could tell he had found something big. "You asked me to dig into Oren and Marlo Monroe," Mercer said, flipping open a file. "Bank records, property deeds, legal disputes. But I found something else." I forced myself to breathe. "What?" Mercer slid a document toward me. A birth certificate, not mine. The name printed on the paper was Annabelle Monroe, born 2 years before me. My stomach dropped. "Who the hell is Annabelle?" Mercer didn't flinch. He tapped another document, a missing persons report. "She was reported missing at 3 years old. The case was closed within a week." I scanned the report, my pulse pounding. And then I saw it. Marlo Monroe. Filed statement. There was never a child named Annabelle Monroe. The world tilted beneath me. I read it again. There was never a child named Annabelle Monroe. But that wasn't possible. Missing persons reports don't just vanish. A 3-year-old doesn't just disappear. Unless someone makes sure of it. My grip tightened on the file. "You're telling me my parents erased their own daughter?" Mercer's face was unreadable. "Legally, Annabelle Monroe never existed. No death certificate. No social security number. After the report was closed, her record stopped. It's like she was wiped from existence." Annabelle Monroe had been my sister, and my parents had erased her. I swallowed hard, my voice barely a whisper. "What happened to her?" Mercer hesitated. "You have a theory," I pushed. He exhaled. "Cases like this don't just disappear, Kira. If I had to guess, either she was given away, or something worse happened, and your mother made sure no one asked questions." Marlo. Oren had always been the obvious monster, the manipulative tyrant who crushed everything in his path. But Marlo? She was worse. Because she made the monsters. I thought back to my childhood, to every punishment, every lesson Oren had taught me. The way Marlo had watched, silent, complicit. Had she done the same to Annabelle? Had my sister been the first experiment, a failed project, a mistake they erased? Nausea twisted my stomach. "I need more," I said, voice shaking. "I need everything you can find on Annabelle. Who she was, where she went." Mercer hesitated. "Kira, if they covered this up, they did it for a reason." "Good," I said coldly. "That means I finally have something to use against them." Because this wasn't just about me anymore. It never had been. This was about all the lives they had destroyed, and I was going to make sure they never destroyed another. I left the office in a daze. The streets of downtown Houston blurred, the sun high in the sky, mocking the darkness inside me. Annabelle. I had a sister, and they had erased her. My fists clenched. They spent their whole lives making sure no one could escape them. Now it was my turn. They erased one daughter. They would never erase another. They spent their lives controlling others, erasing what they didn't like, manipulating what they couldn't erase. But I wasn't a child anymore, and I was done playing their game. The boardroom was silent. Oren and Marlo Monroe sat at the polished mahogany table, their expressions carefully composed. Their designer clothes and forced poise screamed power, but it was a farce. They were drowning, and they knew it. They thought I was here to negotiate. They thought I was going to fold, give in, and save them like the obedient daughter they never deserved. I sat across from them, my hands steady, my heart cold. I had spent my entire life running. But today, I was the one setting the trap. Oren was the first to speak. "Let's not waste time, Kira." His voice was firm, controlled. "We both know why we're here. You're angry, I get it. But this—" He gestured toward the legal team seated beside me. "This isn't necessary. We're family. We can settle things privately." I smiled. Cold. Detached. "You think this is about anger?" I leaned forward. "This is about consequences." Marlo shifted uncomfortably, her manicured fingers twisting the edge of her silk scarf. "Sweetheart, please don't let outsiders poison our families." I slammed the first file onto the table. They flinched. "Stolen trust fund," I said evenly, tapping the pages in front of them. "Financial fraud, illegal asset transfers, tax evasion, and that's just the beginning." Marlo's face drained of color. Oren clenched his jaw, but his mask didn't crack. Not yet. "Where did you get this?" he asked, voice flat. "I had someone very good look into you," I replied. "Turns out, erasing paper trails isn't as easy as erasing daughters." Silence. A beat too long. Oren's fingers curled into fists. "You don't understand." I dropped the second file. "Annabelle." Marlo's breath hitched. I had their attention now. "You always thought you were untouchable," I murmured, flipping the pages, watching their eyes dart from document to document. "You stole my money, my future. But what you did to Annabelle?" I exhaled, voice sharp as a blade. "That's a new kind of evil." Marlo's hands trembled. "We had to—" "You had to what?" I snapped. "Erase your own child? Bury her existence?" I leaned closer, my voice low, venomous. "Tell me, Mother, what happened to Annabelle?" Her lips parted. No words came out. Oren's jaw tightened, his silence absolute. Because they knew, and they knew that I knew. For the first time in my life, I watched my father hesitate. The tension in the room thickened, suffocating. Then I placed the final document in front of them. A signed deal. A choice. "Here's how this plays out," I said, my tone sharp, professional, ruthless. "You either take the deal, cooperate with law enforcement, and quietly disappear into the mess you created, or you fight." I tilted my head. "And if you fight?" "Everything goes public. Every crime, every lie, every person you destroyed." I leaned back, crossing my arms. "I don't care which option you choose, because either way—" I smiled. "You lose." Marlo broke first. She sagged in her chair, her breath coming in uneven gasps. "Kira, please," she whispered. "I did what I had to do. I was protecting this family." I laughed, short, hollow. "You didn't protect anyone," I spat. "You enabled him. You covered for him. You erased a child like she was an inconvenience." Her lip quivered. For the first time in my life, I saw her for what she really was. Weak, pathetic, a coward who let the monster win. Oren, though, he wasn't weak, he was furious. His eyes met mine, sharp as razors. "You think you're going to destroy me with this?" I tilted my head. "I know I am." The silence stretched. Then Oren exhaled through his nose, his shoulders relaxing as he leaned back. His expression was unreadable, calculated, and I knew that look. It was the look he always had before he won. "You're your mother's daughter," he muttered. "So emotional." A sharp pang hit my chest. A reflex. But it was the last time his words would ever touch me. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of him. I smirked. "And you're a fraudulent criminal with no way out." I slid the pen across the table. "Sign the papers, Dad." His jaw twitched. His pride screamed at him to resist. But he picked up the pen. And he signed. I stood up. Oren and Marlo stayed seated, their world crumbling around them. They had spent their whole lives winning. But today they lost. I turned toward the door, walking away. And for the first time in my life, I didn't look back. The war was over. But wars leave wreckage in their wake, and some wounds don't heal just because the battle is won. The cafe was quiet, the low hum of conversation blending with the clinking of silverware against porcelain. The kind of place meant for first dates and soft reunions, not for final goodbyes. I had chosen this spot deliberately. Neutral ground. A place where history couldn't sink its claws into me, where the ghosts of my past couldn't twist my emotions into something I didn't want to feel. Across from me, the seat remained empty. For now. I had given Vesper one chance, a single meeting, no second invitations, no open-ended promises. If she wanted to talk, this was it. I stirred my coffee, watching the steam rise. The door opened. I knew it was her before I even looked up. Vesper hesitated just inside the entrance, scanning the room like a nervous child entering a principal's office. When her eyes found mine, something flickered across her face. Guilt, hesitation, regret. Good. She walked over, slow and careful, as if expecting me to vanish before she got the chance to speak. She sat. Neither of us said a word. Finally, she exhaled. "I don't expect you to forgive me." I took a sip of coffee. Good. Her hands tightened around the edge of the table, but I still needed to say it. I let the silence stretch, watching her fidget under the weight of it. She had once been my sister. Now she was just someone who shared my blood. "I wanted to believe they weren't as bad as you said," she admitted, voice cracking. "I wanted to believe we could still be a family." I let out a quiet laugh, sharp, bitter. "There was never a family, Vesper. You just didn't want to see it." She flinched, but she didn't argue. I leaned back in my chair, tapping my fingers against the ceramic mug. "What do you want from me?" She swallowed, looking down. "I don't know." "Then why are you here?" She hesitated. Then, in a whisper, "Because I don't want to lose you, too." I stared at her, searching for something, anything, that would make me believe her, but I couldn't. Because love without trust was just an open wound waiting to be torn apart again. And I was done bleeding. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and placed it between us. She frowned. "What's this?" "The truth," I said. "Read it." Her fingers shook as she unfolded it. Annabelle's birth certificate, the missing persons report, the statement Marlo had filed to erase her from existence. Vesper's lips parted, eyes scanning the words. I watched as her world shattered. "Oh my God!" Her hands trembled. I didn't know." I tilted my head. "Didn't you?" Tears welled in her eyes. I swear to you, if I had known." I held up a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "I don't care." She blinked. "What?" I exhaled, slow and deliberate. "I don't care what you knew or didn't know. I don't care what you regret. You made your choice, Vesper, and I made mine." She stared at me, lips parted, waiting for something, mercy, understanding, absolution. I had none left to give. I stood, pulling a few bills from my wallet and dropping them onto the table. "I have a life to live," I said, my voice steady, "and it doesn't include them." I met her eyes, cold and unwavering. "I don't know if it includes you either." Her breath hitched, but she nodded. She didn't argue, because she knew. she had already lost me. The sun was lower in the sky when I stepped outside, the warmth of the day fading into evening. A small figure waited by the car, his hands shoved into his jacket pockets. Elliot. His brown eyes lifted when he saw me, a soft, knowing smile tugging at his lips. All done? I nodded. He climbed into the passenger seat, buckling himself in as I slid behind the wheel. The cafe, the past, the weight of old wounds, they all sat behind me. I gripped the steering wheel, inhaling deeply. For the first time in years, I could finally breathe. Life teaches us lessons in the harshest ways, but sometimes those lessons aren't about survival. They're about choosing to live on your own terms. For years, I believed healing meant making peace with the past, that understanding my parents' choices would free me from the weight I carried. But some people will never give you closure. They won't admit their mistakes, feel remorse, or change. Waiting for an apology that will never come only keeps you chained to the ones who hurt you. Healing isn't about them, it's about you. You don't need their permission to move forward. You don't have to carry their sins. You are allowed to walk away, even if they call you heartless, ungrateful, or try to pull you back with guilt. Your peace is worth more than their approval. If this video touched your heart, drop a 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. And if you want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe so you never miss one.